Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Saha Veryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. The first chapter of the Gita, Arjuna Vishada Yoga, the yoga or the description of Arjuna's Vishada, sorrow, despondency. So we started it a couple of classes ago, and we finished the 7th verse last week. Now, the Mahabharata, as I told you, the 5 virtuous Pandavas represent the good tendencies in all of us, but they are always outnumbered by the negative selfish tendencies represented by the 100 Kauravas. That's all it is. This battle is constantly going on within each of us. So there are higher spiritual aspirations and there are lower material sensual desires. So although the higher is better in quality, the quantity difference is so much of the lower that it overpowers you. So Krishna fought unarmed. It's a misnomer to say fought. He didn't fight. He was the charioteer of Arjuna. Krishna represents this knowledge of the self, Brahma Vidya, Vedanta. So unarmed means it's not an external discipline. It's an internal knowledge. It's the understanding that makes you win. The right understanding, the higher knowledge. That is represented by Krishna constantly guiding the Pandavas until they overcame the Kauravas. That's the Mahabharata war. So it's all deeply symbolic. And the first chapter sets the backdrop. So you understand very clearly. The philosophy is not given, the description of the problem is given. So first you must understand the problem before you will embark upon a solution. Only if you understand you have a disease will you take treatment, right? If you think you're okay, how will you take treatment? It's like that. In fact, Josh Billing says that, right? The trouble with most folks is not so much their ignorance as their knowing as many things which ain't so. The trouble with people is not their ignorance. They believe they know things which are not true. Now what can you do? If you have a disease, it's bad enough, but you believe you are well, that you're finished. You will never take treatment. So spiritually, that's what happens. We all believe we know. And in this wrong belief, you got to pay the price. The price is stress and strain, agitation, bitterness. So that's the backdrop he's setting. You could be very, very successful. You could be most accomplished in your field. That has nothing to do with it because you're not prepared for life. You just have a talent. It's like you're a great tennis player. Now, what does that have to do with how to deal with your family, how to handle stress, you can't handle anything. But you know how to play tennis properly. They're two different things. So all of you have a talent, no doubt, in something or the other. And you trade upon that talent and you make a living. That's all. But what do you know about life? This is what you have to ask yourself. And that's what you will see beautifully depicted here. So how Arjuna slips into sorrow and then what happens? So he's setting the stage. So right now we were on the 7th verse where Duryodhana, the eldest Kaurava, the king of the Kaurava, the unrighteous army, shows two typical weaknesses that people in the world have: ego and selfishness. So he's highly egoistic and full of selfishness. And it is selfishness which causes fear. No matter how much you may have, you are always afraid of losing it. So he says that even though the Pandava army is far weaker numerically, he still fears them because he's a selfish person. The more selfish you are, the more you fear. So he's talking to Drona, the commander-in-chief of his army, and also his guru who taught him the warfare, an accomplished teacher and a warrior himself, Drona. He's talking to him. That was the 7th verse. He says, I'm going to enumerate these great warriors on our side for your information, as if he doesn't know who they are. Simply, he is full of himself. He wants to talk. So, Drona is relatively objective. He keeps quiet. Let him talk. Nothing to do. Let the battle start. So, that's what's happening right now. So, everybody clear so far?
Gautamji, I have a question related to first verse.
Related to the first verse, yes.
So, Dharmakshetra, Kurukshetra, you mentioned the field of divinity has become the battlefield. Usually, field is used in the context of field of activity, but here, field here implies the mind, right?
The word kshetra in the first verse you're asking, field, it's translated as. Kshetra means a place. Yeah, so it could mean anything. Like in the 13th chapter, he says kshetra, kshetragnya vibhaga yoga. The field and the knower of the field. What is the difference? So he's using field there to mean this entire realm of matter, the world. So it depends how it's used.
So here it can be used as state of mind.
No, here it is dharma kshetre, the field of divinity, refers to the Atman, the self, which you are. You are that divinity, right? That has now become a place of strife, a place of bliss and peace has become a place of sorrow and strife. To understand it in the context, it's not important what kshetra means. It means the realm. Okay, you understand realm? The realm of peace has become the realm of sorrow. In that sense, he's used kshetra. Alright. Verse 8.
कृपश्च समितिञ्जयः अश्वत्थामा विकर्णश्च सौमदत्तिस्तथैव च भवानीश्वश्च कर्णश्च कृपश्च समितिञ्जयः अश्वत्थामा विकर्णश्च सौमदत्तिस्तथैव च.
Thyself and Bhishma and Karna and Kripa the victorious in battle, Ashwathama, Vikarna, and also the son of Somadatta. So again, he is just enumerating the best warriors from his side. Now, what is important to note philosophically is Drona was a great warrior, very learned, but he had one weakness, his son, attachment to his son Ashwathama. And that weakness cost him his life in the battle. Because Krishna knew he had the weakness. This is the guidance he gave the Pandavas and plotted his destruction. Now, what you must learn is how much ever you may be accomplished in life, how many ever positive qualities you have, that's not going to help you. Because it is those one or two negative weaknesses which disturb you and destroy you in life. This is philosophy. See, all of Shakespeare's tragedies show that, Brutus, who killed Caesar, he was a great man. In fact, he was known in Rome for his virtue. But he had that one weakness of power. And Cassius and Casca and all those second grade, third grade people who were nothing but just hungry for power, They exploited that because they needed somebody powerful like Brutus on their side to justify their action. See how the unrighteous always need somebody righteous to show that they are on the right track. They have to say that, or they need somebody who the public considers righteous. Very interesting. They have to hide behind that facade. So, but he had that weakness. And that weakness took him from where he was to murdering his own mentor who did so much for him. Like a father he was, Julius Caesar to Brutus. And that's why when he saw him coming with the dagger, he stopped resisting. Et tu Bruti. Because these other fellows he could have taken care of. Other conspirators. He was powerful and was a warrior. But when he saw Brutus coming, it's like seeing your own son coming to kill you. What's the point? It's literally like that. Et tu Bruti. You all know that, right? Then falls Caesar. It's proverbial ever since. To an act of extreme ingratitude, you will say, et tu Bruti. So, the one weakness. So, Drona had so many virtues, but he had that weakness. And that destroyed him. So, what you must understand is, analyze your life. You may have that money, you may have a nice family, but if you have that one weakness, let's say it's alcohol, you're gone. Everything is gone in that addiction. It could be gambling, it could be power, it could be wealth, anything. That's what disturbs you. Children could have everything and one child is not doing well, you're gone. So where is that weakness? And your job in life is to build your intellect so it doesn't disturb you. You have it under control. If you don't, it will disturb you. Perhaps destroy you, like it has destroyed so many men and women. That one weakness. And Bhishma, he says, Bhishma is the grandsire of the Kauravas and the Pandavas. He's a grand uncle who actually this kingdom which these guys are fighting for belongs to him, which he renounced just to satisfy a whim of his father who wanted to marry a particular woman, and that woman had the condition that my children should be king. So he told her, "What's your problem? I don't want the kingdom." He was the crown prince. And she said, "No." She was so selfish. She said, "Okay, you don't want the kingdom, but your children will want. Then what will happen to my children?" There's a limit to selfishness also. He said, "Okay, even that, I won't marry. I won't have children. Now you're satisfied?" Then she said, "Yes." So, he is respected, Deva Vrata, the one of the terrible vow, the divine vow, or however you want to translate it. So, in the golden age of India, what people used to respect was renunciation. You were respected for what you are able to give up. Now it is a third grade. Everybody is third grade. Now you respect what a person has. Money, they say, oh, some actor, celebrity. This is what you look up to. All just average, self-centered people like everybody else. What is there to look up to? Must look up to a person who has given up for the sake of others. I don't see any detachment or giving in this world. Even giving, there's a return required. So he was respected tremendously because for a whim of his father, he gave up everything. So sacrifice. So that's what I'm telling you. So even anybody, you can't go by one aspect. You must see the whole personality. So even though Drona was so virtuous, he had that weakness. That can overpower you. Karna, same thing. Karna was actually the oldest Pandava brother, but he was discarded by his mother because she was unmarried at the time, Kunti. And he was brought up by a charioteer, and he was befriended by Duryodhana. And Duryodhana gave him a kingdom, gave him status, so he was heavily indebted. In fact, Krishna came to him before the war and spilled the beans. You know who you are. You are the eldest Pandava, and if I tell them, they'll make you the king. He said, "No, you're telling me that now. But all my life I've been indebted to Duryodhana because he gave me everything. Now when he needs me, I will not leave." So even though he knew he's going to die. So these are the qualities: gratitude, sacrifice, which you should cultivate. You see, in the world today, there is no concept of gratitude. That is why everybody is fighting and screaming with each other all the time. Even in your house, you fight with your spouse. You have no gratitude. A person has given you companionship, whatever it is, in the past. You must be grateful. No, now you do more for me. That is the fight. So whether it's the house, whether it's the community. See, I saw a shocking documentary once. There's this man, film director. He, he did this documentary on this guy who was wrongly jailed, incarcerated. Made a documentary. And because of that documentary, the news went out and all, and they eventually released this guy. And you know what the guy who got released does first thing? He sues the film director. Can you imagine? You have benefited from my life. The fellow sold the rights to cover the costs of his production. That also this guy won. After he released him from life imprisonment. Now, what can you talk in a world like that? Doctor has performed life-saving surgery, he's left a minor cosmetic scar, and you sue him. So, and there are billboards on the everywhere on the highways now.
Right.
Have you got injured? You just call. Have you got this thing? You call. We'll finish those fellows off. Don't worry. Whole thing is geared to extract from others. How can you be free from stress or strain in life? Impossible. So the first quality, forget about giving. Giving is karma yoga, service. At least repay what you've taken. Even that you won't do. You want more. So Karna was known for his gratitude. He could have got a kingdom. He could have got all the respect and this thing he wanted. He said no. And he knows he's going to die. So these are the virtues: gratitude, duty, service, which should be respected. You should look for people who have these qualities. So what are you looking up to? Vikarna. Vikarna was the only Kaurava who spoke against Draupadi's humiliation in the court. So even amongst the unrighteous, there are some righteous qualities. That's what it means. So interesting, he's giving here the list of people who were righteous in the unrighteous side. Interesting. And they were the most powerful. Very interesting. Kripa, one other great warrior. Highly principled person. Yes, Umesh, you had a question?
Yeah, Gautamji, Drona, who was a master of Vedas and Vedangas and was the guru and teacher of Duryodhana. He didn't teach Duryodhana anything about Vedas.
He did. It's like me. I've taught you about Vedas. What have you understood? Now, why are you listening? 200 fellows here learning about the Veda. Anybody is practicing it? What are you talking, man? See, you may teach, but it is up to the students to learn and practice it. You can teach. All of you will learn. How many of you will practice? So his negative vasanas were so strong. Whatever guidance he was given, it's like duck, what do you call? Water on a duck's back. Like my guru says, Nalapu Nalapudara, Talapuradara. Christina, you know what that means? How much ever you wash a black rat, it's not going to become white. So it's a saying in Telugu, right? Telugu, correct?
Yes.
I pronounced it correctly?
Yeah, it's from like Sumati Satakam.
Don't give me history geography. Correct? No, the saying that. So it's from where and who said that. Point is, when the vasanas are so strong, in fact, this is what you must learn as parents. All of you think you're going to produce saints and nothing. You may give the best upbringing. You may have the best facilities, teachers. It's their vasanas, their desires. If they are strong enough, it will override all the environmental influence. So you can only provide the right environment as parents. It's a good question. He's saying he was brought up with so many wise people around. You can't do a thing. So you do your best as a parent, as a teacher. Now what comes out of it is like me teaching you all. I know what's going to come out of it. So what you take, each one of you, is up to you and how you want to apply it in your life. So he's trying to blame the teacher. He's trying to say, I didn't learn anything, your fault. Nothing like that.
So he may not have learned anything, but now he had dragged him into a war.
That is different. That is again another aspect which I was going to come to. That a lot of people ask this. Why Drona and Bhishma, who are such stalwarts and righteous people, fight on the side of the Kauravas? Because they are soldiers. Now, when the whole life they have eaten from the Kaurava kingdom, they have drawn their living from the Kaurava kingdom. Bhishma, nobody asked him to renounce it. Once he renounced it, he became a servant. He decided to be a servant. Means he served the kingdom. And it's like a soldier. 20 years you've been given training by your country. You've been taught by your country. And then when the general say go fight, no, I don't think you're right. No soldier works like that. It's not possible. So they did their duty, knowing fully well they're going to go. But once they knew Krishna's on the other side, they said it's gone. Right? They knew, but they knew that they have to do what they ought to do. So that's a soldier's life. Either you don't be a soldier, then you be a politician. You decide whether the country should go to war or not. Then do that. Don't sign up to be a soldier and then say, no, we're going to question. Doesn't work that way. You can't have your cake and eat it too. So they're not going to do that. It's as simple as that. Hari Priya. Yeah, unmute her.
Namaste, Gautamji. I was wondering about Karna's attitude towards Duryodhana. You said that he showed gratitude towards Duryodhana, but instead, if he has asked Krishna what he has to do, he can ask Krishna, what do you want me to do at this moment? Instead of taking decision, his own decision.
Krishna was not his. Hello, Krishna was not his guru or guide. You must understand. Even till the time of the Gita, Arjuna had no idea that Krishna was a spiritual, enlightened soul. In fact, in the 10th chapter, he apologizes. When we were kids, I may have insulted you. I may have played with you. I may have hit you. He actually says that. Please forgive me. Because I didn't know who you are. So they don't know him as an enlightened soul. Only people like Bhishma and a few others who are evolved knew who he was. You need to be a Milton to understand a Milton. So Karna had no idea. He just respected him as a wise person, but not as his guru or a teacher. So he didn't ask him. And Krishna offered him, did his best. So you cannot demand respect from anybody. So Krishna did not have that position with them. Why Karna? Couldn't you have told Duryodhana, don't fight the war? Next thing you will ask is, why didn't Duryodhana ask Krishna? He said, who are you? We are going to fight. In fact, Krishna went. So, in fact, there's a bhajan, Duryodhan ko meva tyago. Surdas' bhajan. Sad bidur ghar khai. So he says he went to Hastinapur and he didn't stay with Duryodhana, Krishna. Because he knows that fellow has no understanding at all. He renounced his meva means what? All good food. And sad means he had plain food at Vidura's house. Vidura he knew who Krishna was because he was wise himself. So the point is, they didn't have that. So Krishna tried his best. That's why the war was fought. Because they had all become so arrogant. He decided this war is the only way to rid the country of all these arrogant, selfish fellows. That's why the war he supported, Krishna. Tanya, you can unmute her also. She's still. Same thing. Yeah, Jay.
Yeah, I have a question that if you know that something is wrong in your consciousness, does the duty override that? If you know that your duty is to do this, but you know that it is wrong, I mean, your intellect knows that it's wrong, does the duty override that?
Depends upon the situation. You have a duty towards your son, but you know he's a criminal. You must turn him in. So, what do you mean duty? See, duty to the higher overrides the lower when there's a conflict. So, you have a duty as a father, but your duty towards the country overrides that. So, if your son is doing criminal activity to the detriment of your country, you must turn him in. You have a duty to your organization where you're employed. They've employed you and all, but they're doing something which is illegal. Turn the fellows in. Duty to the country overrides it. So it depends purely on the situation. So the duty to the family, duty to the country, duty to humanity, duty to all living beings. And then the highest duty is duty towards the self. Your only purpose in this world as a human being is to realize yourself, to gain enlightenment. That's the highest duty. That overrides everything else. Now you have only you can see my family, and that's what you believe is your duty. You have no concept of duties. So you will learn as you learn this knowledge, you will learn what is duty and how to do it. That is intellect. So it's purely subjective.
So if some of the warriors knew that they were doing this is wrong, let's say Karna, and still as a duty they did fight the war.
I just explained to you, no. Now why are you repeating it? I just told you. Their duty to their country those days was the kingdom. Another country is coming to destroy their country. What will they do? That's it. So you focus on that part of it. And Karna had a limited vision. He couldn't see beyond the duty to his friend. He was blinded by that. Yeah, it was limited. So he paid for that with his life. He died in the war. So if you're not able to see beyond your limited sense of duty, even that you'll have to pay. So that again, they were not enlightened Vedantins when they knew what are the duties and how to override them. They were not in that kind of knowledge. They were just average, like how you all are. People, but they had these fine qualities. So learn from the qualities and also learn where they are limited and how you go past them. So, see, in these Puranas or these epics, they highlight a particular quality. Now, you can't confuse that with others, like the person before you was asking. He's got this quality of gratitude. Why didn't he have surrender to Krishna? Now, we're not talking about that. We're talking about that quality. Now, all of you should ask yourselves, am I grateful or not? Have I repaid the people who helped me in this world? Work on that. You forget about your other qualities. Start with that. So learn from each person's qualities and make sure that you don't have those limitations. That's why you're getting educated on this. Why do you think the Mahabharata is written? So you understand the good, where the good itself is limited, and how only the intellect has the capacity to go beyond these limitations. That's Vedanta. So even if you have a positive quality, you'll make sure your intellect guides it properly. Now, who has that knowledge? All the good people you'll see in the world are passive. They don't have an intellect. They don't use their intellect. And all the fellows who have an intellect use it to exploit others. You will never find, almost impossible to find a person who has a powerful intellect and uses it to help others. That is Krishna. Nobody uses it. So it's not easy to develop those kind of qualities. You're asking why is Karna not Krishna? That's what he's asking. Doesn't work that way. Yeah, Divyam.
Hari Om Guruji.
So I had a question about the vasanas. So you were saying if someone has like an individual, like if they have like a bad vasana, it can kind of supersede even all the good that's been taught around them, right?
Right.
So the Kauravas, Duryodhana, he just had a bad vasana. So he kind of in life, he just succumbed to that. But there were 100 Kauravas. Were they all born with bad vasanas? Or, I mean, out of 100, they were like good Kauravas, but they just followed Duryodhana because of their sense of duty. Or they were all just born bad.
Well, all of
And
them
they just-
were, their names started with Dur, Duryodhana, Dushasana, Dur, this, which means bad. It's a story. Okay, they're trying to convey something in particular. So don't take it beyond that. The point was they were selfish, unrighteous people. And it means the selfishness within you. Now, what I was saying to Umesh was, you may have an environment which is spiritual, but if you are selfish, negative beyond a point, that will take over. Opposite also works. This is Prahlada. So Prahlada was born amongst Asuras, which means selfish, unrighteous people. But his vasanas were good. So he didn't let that influence him. So your duty as a parent is to make sure you create the most positive environment, not just as a parent, as a leader, whatever it may be. But in spite of that, those whose internal nature is so gross, the other side, that will take over. You can't do anything. So they have to do it themselves. They have to realize it themselves. They don't, they will face the consequences. You will be in jail, you will be in a trial, you'll be this, you'll be that. So that's all. And any person, to complete your question, is not wholly good or bad. So even if a person is predominantly negative, they'll have certain good qualities. Even if a person is predominantly positive, they'll have some negative qualities. Only when you're enlightened, there's no negativity left at all. That is enlightenment. That is the culmination. So I gave you the example, right? Yudhishthira. He was so righteous, but he had two terrible flaws: gambling, and he was fanatically attached to his elders. He would not go against them. And both destroyed him. Luckily, they had the guidance of Krishna in the end, so they saved themselves. 9.
अन्ये च बहवः शूराः मदर्थे त्यक्तजीविताः नानाशस्त्रप्रहरणाः सर्वे युद्धविशारदाः अन्ये च बहवः शूराः मदर्थे त्यक्तजीविताः नानाशस्त्रप्रहरणाः सर्वे युद्धविशारदाः.
And many other heroes who have given up their lives for my sake, armed with various weapons and missiles, all well skilled in battle. See, again, he's trying to show his ego. They have all given up their lives for my sake. All of them are there out of fear because he's the main king in that area, So they have to go there. Nobody wants to go with him because he's unrighteous, selfish person. So an egoistic person not only is egoistic, he believes others are also believing that he is superior. That is the beauty of an egoistic person. Not only do you believe you're superior to others, you believe others share that view. Very interesting. The height of delusion. And that's why they're always agitated, because nobody shares that view. How dare you talk to me like that? See, the more egoistic you are, the more deluded you become. You don't understand what you're doing. If you can't see that in the world, I don't know what you can see. See, these fellows who earn that much money and all, completely deluded. Don't know what they're talking. They start talking on everything. On everything, they'll start giving their gyan, agyan, ignorance, not knowledge. They'll start talking on sports, they'll start talking on politics, they'll start talking on weather, they'll start talking. Medicine also they'll start talking. You should or you should not take this medicine. Right? So, that ego. So, Duryodhana is typical example of ego. How many people try to put sense into him? Look, they are your cousins, half the kingdom is theirs. He had taken it and thrown them into exile and said, when you come back from exile, I'll give it back to you. So he's saying, at least give it back. Krishna went to the extent of saying, you okay, give them 5 villages where they can live at least. If not, I won't give an inch. That's when the war. So, ego, egomaniacal, deluded people. This is what Duryodhana was. He thinks all of them are there for him. Just see. And what comes out of that ego? Fear, agitation, anxiety. That's verse 10.
अपर्याप्तं तदस्माकं बलं भीष्माभिरक्षितम् पर्याप्तं त्विदमेतेषां बलं भीमाभिरक्षितम् अपर्याप्तं तदस्माकं बलं भीष्माभिरक्षितम् पर्याप्तं त्विदमेतेषां बलं भीमाभिरक्षितम्.
This army of ours protected by Bhishma is unlimited, whereas that army of theirs protected by Bhima is limited. So, the first translation is unlimited, limited, which again he's trying to convince himself that he's safe, whereas earlier he's convinced himself that he's not safe. In fact, later again you will see he feels unsafe, and that's why there's a second, more appropriate translation, which is limited, insufficient, and sufficient. So actually, this army of ours protected by Bhishma is insufficient. That army of theirs protected by Bhima is sufficient. So, as I had explained earlier, when you are selfish and destructive, you will always have that fear that others will do the same thing to you. If you destroy others, you will always feel you will be destroyed by others. So you will see these fellows, criminals and all, they live in palaces or whatever. They need half a bottle of alcohol to sleep. It's tremendous fear. Your conscience is always disturbing you. You're always thinking what will happen to you, because you're doing that to others. Person who's unselfish will fall asleep immediately. You're serving others. You will never feel that others will destroy you. So, you got to pay a price. Remember that. It is ego and egocentric desires that cause all the problems in the world. So, with Vedanta, you rise above this egocentric desires. You become peaceful and happy immediately, if you can relate to this. So see, in the first chapter, like I said, he's not talked about the real philosophy. He's only talking about these psychological truths and setting the stage for Arjuna's fall. So we were just running through it. Yeah. 11.
अयनेषु च सर्वेषु यथा भागमवस्थिताः भीष्ममेवाभिरक्षन्तु भवन्तः सर्व एव हि अयनेषु च सर्वेषु यथा भागमवस्थिताः भीष्ममेवाभिरक्षन्तु भवन्तः सर्व एव हि.
And stationed in your respective positions in all divisions, all of you guard Bhishma alone. Now, suddenly from everybody's fighting for me, that fear comes. Because, as I told you, the unrighteous always need some righteous cause to justify their actions. So politician is selfish, typical example. They just want power and money which comes from that position. What will they say? I am doing everything to serve you all. I will work for. See, he has to say righteous, even though it's actually unrighteous. It's like that. So Duryodhana knows there's nothing for him to fight. He's selfish and greedy. So there's no cause for people to fight for him. So he wants to make sure Bhishma is protected because he is an embodiment of virtue. So if he's there, his troops will all find a cause. Bhishma is fighting, therefore we'll fight. So he says, on any condition, all of you, make sure he's guarded. Don't leave your position where you have to guard him. So he betrays his fear. That's what this whole topic is about. And the next topic, 12 to 19, the sound of conches terrifies the Kauravas. So even though they are superior in strength numerically, they're terrified when they hear the conches. Conches means the trumpet of today, the battle, the call to battle. So 12, he says, we're not chanting this, right? 12, 13. The mighty grandsire, the aged Kuru, referring to Bhishma, raising aloud a lion's roar, blew his conch to cheer Duryodhana up because he can see the fear in Duryodhana. So Bhishma blows his conch to cheer him up. 13. Then conches, kettle drums, tabors, drums and cow horns blared forth quite suddenly. The noise was tumultuous. So here the war has begun. So the battle cry has been given and the war has begun. And that's the entry of Arjuna and Krishna into the scene. 14.
ततश्वेतैर्हयैर्युक्ते महति स्यन्दने स्थितो माधवः पाण्डवश्चैव दिव्यौ शङ्खौ प्रदध्मतुः ततश्वेतैर्हयैर्युक्ते महति स्यन्दने स्थितो माधवः पाण्डवश्चैव दिव्यौ शङ्खौ प्रदध्मतुः.
Then seated in a magnificent chariot, yoked to white horses, Madhava and Pandava also blew their divine conches. magnificent chariot is called in English transferred epithet. The magnificence here refers to Krishna, not the chariot. Obviously, it says, then seated in a magnificent chariot, yoked to white horses. Madhava. And Madhava is another name for Krishna. So you will find in the Gita, out of affection. See, it's like out of affection, you call your kids with pet names, right? Or your friends. You don't call them by their actual names. So you will see between Krishna and Arjuna tremendous affection. They keep calling each other by their other names, their nicknames. So one of the nicknames for Krishna was Madhava, which comes from Madhu, the killer of Madhu. Madhu is a demon. And his whole life, Krishna kept on killing demons. If you see his childhood. So, what is the symbolism? With the knowledge of the self, with this knowledge of Vedanta, which is Krishna, you destroy the demon of ego and egocentric desires within you. So, this is the symbolic representation. So, in all religions, desire is personified as the devil, the demon between a human and God. Almost all religions use it. So it's called what? Satan in Christianity, right? Shaitan in Islam, Mara Buddhism, and of course, Hinduism is full of various Rakshasas and Asuras, demons. They have even classified demons into two categories, Tamasic and Rajasic. Tamasic Asuras, Rajasic Rakshasas. So, depending on the grossness of your selfishness. So, how you get to the self? See the equation, some of you may not be aware, so I'm repeating since there are quite a few new people. Human minus egocentric desire equals God. So you are nothing but God, the spirit, soul, consciousness, Atman, Brahman, however you want to refer to it, covered right now with your ego and the egocentric desires which come out of the ego. So the ego consists of this body, mind, intellect, and the body generates unending physical demands. The mind keeps generating unending emotional demands. Intellect hungers for more and more information. So out of this ego, it just goes on generating egocentric desire. And that covers your Atman, the self. Whole life you are lost in these desires, totally lost. Gods can't shake you out of that. So rare indeed is the person who says, no, beyond this mundane existence of just fulfilling my selfish desires, there has to be something more to life. And that person is magnificent. That is a spiritual seeker, a true seeker. That's who this Gita is meant for, nobody else. So if you don't feel there's something more to life than your routine, mundane existence, you don't waste your time studying this. It was not meant for you. Might as well spend your time earning a few more dollars. It's as simple as that. So this chariot is almost, everybody has it in their home also. Traditionally, there'll be a picture of Krishna and Arjuna in the chariot with white horses. What does it mean? White horses represents the five senses. The reins is the mind. Charioteer, which is the main thing. Krishna is the intellect. And Arjuna is you and me, the individual, seated in the chariot, which is your body. So just imagine this scene. If the charioteer is asleep, what will happen? The reins become loose, uncontrolled, and the horses run all over the place and you're destroyed. The same charioteer is alert, the rein is controlled, tight, and the horses are guided to their destination. This is it. So the fulcrum of the whole thing is the charioteer. And that's why Krishna is also called as Partha Sarathi. Partha means Arjuna, Sarathi, charioteer. So you better read the books written by anybody called Partha Sarathi. That's what it means. Happens to be my guru, right? So this is the symbolism. So wherever you have a problem in life, this is the thought I want to leave you with, is where what? The reins are loose. You have lost control over the mind. Uncontrolled mind. And an uncontrolled mind means stress. So if you're anxious or stressed about something, in that area the mind has gone out of control. It's as simple as that. Don't blame the world. Why did you lose control? It's like blaming alcohol for your addiction. See, if you keep the desire under control, you can enjoy a drink. You lose control, you become an addict. Now you can't blame alcohol for that. You can't blame money for your greed. It's your greed which is the problem. How can you blame money? I went to the bank, so much money, so I decided to rob the... You're blaming money for that. So that charioteer in you is the intellect. Intellect controls the mind. Mind controls the body. Remember that. Now you're trying with your body. This is what they teach. Stretch your body and your intellect will become big. Now there is a limit to madness also. So understand the real hierarchy. Intellect controls the mind. The mind controls the body. Your mind tells your body what to do. So this is the scene now. So Arjuna and Krishna have come into the battlefield, and that's when the destruction of Arjuna's mind, again the mind starts going out of control. So that you will see in the next few verses. So we sent an email out this past week about the 2 retreats that are coming up. Of course, these are all online, but in person. The next one is in the Catskills here in upstate New York. I'll be taking a session on the Upanishads, which is from the Vedas, way before the Gita also. The real philosophy of Vedanta is in the Upanishads. So we'll be studying select verses from there. That will be September 27 to 29th, Friday to Sunday. So even if you're new and you not come before, don't worry, you can always get in touch and they'll work out the logistics with you. That's not a problem. A lot of people come from different parts of the country to attend. And then the longer retreat, which is 6 days, will be in India at the Vedanta Academy, at the home of Vedanta, which is in January 13 to 18th, 2025. So I would highly recommend you attend both. So at least periodically you have a time to get away from your day-to-day involvement and sit and study in a concentrated fashion. That really helps. So save the dates and we'll send out the registration a few weeks or months before that show. So we'll see you on Wednesday for Q&A, otherwise next weekend. Hari Om.